Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at changing the oil on a 2011 Honda VFR800f. So it's the same as a VTEC, it is a VTEC engine. Just in Australia, I don't think it's called the VTEC for this end of the 6th generation. So 6th generation VFR went, I think, from 2002 to 2012, and I've pretty much got the end of the lineup, the 2011 model, and basically not much changed. It's just they changed a few electrical things to make it more reliable. The gauge cluster is a little bit, in my opinion, a bit tidier. As you can see, the numbers are a bit clearer. It's not as cheap looking as the earlier ones, and yeah, just some small details there. Anyway, moving on. Basically, I've been told by the motorcycle shop that I bought this from that this is the best you can get. It's mostly a fully synthetic, as you can see, 10W40 weight, so it's pretty good oil, I think. You're also going to need an oil filter. I got the genuine OEM Honda oil filter. It's pretty expensive. I think all this was about 130 bucks. It was about 100 for this and about 30 bucks for this, I think, somewhere along the lines. You're also going to need a oil filter wrench to get the old oil filter off. Some of my stuff rolling away. As you can see, it slides on here, and then as you tighten it, it will loosen up the old one like that. So you never put a new oil filter on with this. You're basically just using it to get the old one off, and then the new one you hand tighten on, if that makes sense. You will need a 17mm, hopefully you can see it, socket set. I use an extension because it's got to reach up under there till about there, and then you're getting off the sump plug. So then you've got it's a 1/2 inch ratchet as well. 1/2 inch drive fits into there, and that's a 1/2 inch as well. I don't have Allen keys. I seem to have lost them, so I'm going to be using a hex set. This is, I think it's hardened steel, so it shouldn't bugger up my screws too much. It says it is a T30, so I think it's a 3mm equivalent of a what are they called? Allen key. But yeah, like I said, I seem to have lost my Allen keys, so I'm going to be giving this a go. And we're in lockdown in Canberra, so I don't want to be driving around the place trying to find them, even though it probably is essential. I don't want to take that risk. So basically, to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew this one, this one, this one, this one. It's a bit tricky to see in here. I think there's a plastic one there. We're going to do this one, we're going to do this one, and I think by memory I don't need to touch the other side. Then underneath here, I don't know how well you can see this, there's 2 plastic screws there you need to undo. While we're down here, there is the sump plug bolt that comes out with the washer. So that's where the sump is. It's a wet sump system with baffles in there to handle the high G forces. So it's not a dry sump, it is still a wet sump engine. You can see my disgusting, muddy, rusty headers there coming off the very dirty engine. So yes, this does need a wash. Haven't washed it for a while. As you can see, the chain was replaced I think about less than 10,000 Ks ago, and I tried to keep it pretty clean and lubricated. It's been sitting around, I think it's got a bit of surface rust, but I'm trying to keep it as clean and lubricated as possible. Speaking of that, a little bit of lube goes a long way. Basically I use Inox or Lennox or WD-40 or any sort of penetrating sort of lubricant to just, if you struggle to get little bolts off or things like your kickstand gets squeaky and things like that, I sort of go around and just lube it up a bit, keep it happy. So yeah, that's basically it. You don't have to do this, but you can open up this thing. Doing this one-handed. Basically, while we're here, I'm going to do a basic service. Put this out of the way. Alright, so you got your, I think it's a factory toolkit there I've got the snorkel that I took out. I'll probably explain that better on a separate video. Anyway, here's a battery. So I've plugged a battery saver in here. A very good investment while we're here talking about it. This plugs into the, it's like a battery charger, like a pulse charger. It keeps it topped up all the time. So when you go to start it the next time, your battery's not flat if it's sitting for a long time. Anyway, moving on. If you wanted to do the airbox, your air cleaner, basically you just undo these two bolts here, and that's all there is to it. This whole unit just flips up, fuel tank, and it's still attached at the rear, and then you just prop it up with a screwdriver. Then there's I think it's 6 screws in there. You take that cover off, but I might do that on a separate video. It's a bit fiddly, but yeah, basically it's been a pretty good bike. The reason why I'm doing this oil change is it's only been 500k since the last oil change, but it's been over 6 months. So pretty much for 6 months the same oil's been sitting in the crankcase. It's been gathering dust, it's been getting contaminated with moisture and water and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and change that anyway, even though you think I'm crazy. Oh, it's only got 500k's on it, but you know, it's cold in Canberra. I've ran it up to temperature a few times, obviously, to keep it going and keep the seals lubricated, but it's just good to drop that old oil out anyway and start off fresh. So hopefully in a few weeks, we come out of lockdown, I can put Red Joe back on the bike, and then we can go from there, go for a nice ride. I will also mention you will need a oil pan as well, just to catch all the old oil. You can also see how much oil it will drain out. Normally I get about 4 litres out of this, I think, and I normally pour about, 4 litres straight back into it, and that is normally enough oil to, you know, keep it going to the next service. It doesn't really use oil or anything. You're also going to need some rags, some old pillowcases or old shirts is normally good enough. So if you make a mess or whatever, also have a piece of cardboard here that you can use to soak up the oil stains as well. And it's good, you can actually see the bolts when you put them down a lot easier here than you can on the carpet anyway. So yeah, just wanted to let you know what you have to do to change your oil. I'll dive right into it. I would also recommend, once you pull all the body panels off, to run the engine up to temperature, operating temperature, so the oil's circulated, it's hot, the viscosity of it's thin, and then when you pull that sump plug, the oil will just come straight out. Okay guys, as you can see, there's a little pile of bolts here. Basically, the corresponding bolts is the short little fat ones. Go underneath here, at the back, and there I believe. And these are the short, shallow ones. They just stay in there, and then these longer bolts go on the most top fairings, and then you've got, you know, down the side here, and then these two outer ones here basically just come from there and there. So hopefully that, and just the little plastic screws that are left, and then I can go ahead and pull this whole cover off, and then we should be sweet. So these little plastic bolts, plastic screws here, you just undo them with a little Phillips head screwdriver, and then they just pop out, kind of like a little screw. Little cheap plastic screw, but yeah, anyway, they just slide out. Put that over here. Basically the same underneath here. I'm just going to have these little screws. You just loosen them up. You can either use a flat head screwdriver to pop them out, or you can just pull them out. Most of the time they'll just come out. When I get around to it, I might actually replace those. You can see they're sort of a bit brittle because the bike's 10 years old and it's gets dirty and scraped up under here. They sort of just fall apart eventually. So yeah, same on the other side, and then we can move on. You have 12 screws all together, some metal, some short, some plastic. Basically, if you remember the 12 there, and when you put the bike back together, if you've got screws left over, then you know you're missing something. Anyway, so we're moving on to this part now. Basically, we can just gently start separating the fairing from the rest of the bike. See all the dirt and rubbish falling out of it. The stand gets in the way, so you sort of have to wiggle that around it. There you go. As you can see, it's starting to separate now. Just gently. I'm pretty sure nothing else needs to come off. It's a bit stuck. I wonder if I can just leave that dangling. While you're here, actually, this is how you check the coolant, by the way. You can see it's just on the... Oh yeah, it's got plenty upper level. Yeah, so you got the coolant there, overflow, and it just goes down and drains underneath. The side mounted radiators, one on the other side as well. Basically, I'm not sure why this is still stuck on here. What I might do, you know what guys, I might actually just leave this dangling here. So my hand's blocking the camera. And I can pretty much just reach the oil filter there anyway. And that's all I really need to reach. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna start it up and then let it warm up to operating temperature and then drop the oil out. It's about 36, 37 degrees coolant temperature. The revs start to drop. It's starting to warm up. It still sounds amazing with those pipes on. Okay guys, as you can see, it's fully warmed up now. The cooling fan has switched on. You know, let it run for a minute till the fan switches off. You can shut it down and then I can drain the oil out. It'll be nice and toasty and it'll just come straight out. Okay, so I'm going to drop out the oil now. Just going to reach this on there. I've left the so I will actually recommend that you guys use gloves for doing this part because it's very hot and messy. But since I don't have gloves on me, I'm probably just going to let this drop into the pan and retrieve it another time. Oh, it's hot. There you go. So you can actually see the color of the oil is actually still a bit of a golden brown, which isn't too bad. It tells me that it's pretty healthy still. It's not too contaminated, but I just thought, you know what, it's been 6 months. It hasn't been ridden much. Actually does smell pretty bad. It's got a bit of condensation in there. Don't know if you can really see it. It's gone a little bit yucky, especially towards the end actually. But as you can see, having the engine warmed up means the viscosity of the oil will just come straight out. Like, it won't be as goopy. It will just be more looser to come out and just fall straight out. And you can get much of the old oil out as possible. And we can tackle that oil filter there, as you can see. Bit of a pain in the ass job. Well, we'll go from there. So this is a part of the job I hate the most. As you can see, it's very awkward to get to this oil filter because you've got the coolant lines in the way, you've got the headers there. The space actually looks a lot bigger on camera than it is in person. But basically I have to put the ratchet on this end just to reach through there, just to grab that oil filter. So I know people say, oh, why can't you just put the ratchet next to straight on the oil filter there, on the oil filter removal tool. But it hits the headers and it hits this, and it won't even give you a click to turn it in the left direction which you need it to. It's still too loose, it won't grab onto it. So I'm trying my little plan B and going for this option. So don't really have anything to hold the camera, so I'm gonna put the camera down and pray that I get this off. Okay guys, I made it. Sorry for how blurry this is. Yeah, huge pain in the ass job. Not a lot of fun at all. I'm going to go ahead and screw this off, and then afterwards I'm probably going to let the rest of this drain out while I have lunch, and then tackle it after lunch. Even though I did this up hand tight previously, which you're supposed to do anyway, it is still on freaking tight. Oh, that's really hot as well. It is still on freaking tight though. So I'm just going to move that. Oh, it's dripping down. Is it going in there? Yes, it's going in there. Okay, so as you can see, it's dripping out of there into the pan, which you want. A little bit's getting on the headers, but that's okay, it'll burn off. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this off, have some lunch, wait for it all to drain out, and then I will see you soon. Okay guys, as you can see, all the oil has in fact drained out. Now I'm just going to go ahead, chuck this old oil away, retrieve my little nut that fell in there, and then put the new oil filter back on. I'm also just quickly going to note to you guys, only about 3 litres came out, so I'm not sure why. It is pretty level here, and yeah, I did check the window on the other side where you can check your oil level before I drained it, and it was just under the full. So yeah, I thought these take 4 litres, but apparently only 3, but that's okay. Okay guys, something I've just noticed, I don't know if you guys know anything about it either, but on the old filter that I just took off, looked pretty clean by the way, no metal shavings or anything that I could see. Assembled in USA, this one said, and then I bought pretty much the exact same one from the same place, which looks identical, but this says made in China, so I'm guessing that genuine Honda now is they're also making some of their replacement parts in China, because everything else is almost identical, except one's, you know, American and one's Chinese. And I mean, the American one actually feels a little bit heavier than the Chinese one, and I really don't like Chinese stuff on my bike, but it says it's genuine parts. So please tell me in the comments if this is, I don't know, some knockoff of a genuine one, or what do you guys think about it? Just let me know, because I bought this from a very reputable motorcycle dealer in the Canberra area. We all know which one this is, but I'm not going to say it because, you know, don't want to get them in trouble. So I don't know if it's from one of their part suppliers, or maybe this is just the way things are now, everything's in China. I'm not sure, so let me know in the comments what you think about that. Moving on, when you apply the new oil filter, make sure to obviously take it out of its packet. You're going to get some new oil just on your finger, and you're going to go around and lubricate the outer seal here. I've also gone ahead and cleaned up in there as much as I could, get all the old crap off, the old parts of the seal off, the residue and the old oil off it. So it should stick there fine now and make a perfect seal, hopefully. Okie doke. So as you can see when my camera focuses, the new oil filter is back on. I've done it up hand tight, as hard as you can, like you're supposed to. You should never use a tool to tighten it, otherwise it gets too hard to get off the next time. And also you just don't need to. The seal presses out enough for it to be tight. And yeah, you can actually damage a filter by over tightening it. So anyway, so the sump plug and washer is going to go back in. Now actually, normally you would, after a certain amount of time, replace this sump washer. This was replaced fairly recently, so I'm just going to reuse that. I can just go in there. My camera is not focusing, I don't know why. There we go. Then I'm going to do that up with this ratchet here. You do it sort of tight, and then you just give it 1/4 twist, and then that's tight enough. Then you know it's not going to come off. Then we're going to fill it up with oil. Check the oil level. When it's up to that upper window, which I'll show you in a sec, we'll start the engine, let it run for a few seconds, turn it off, wait a few minutes, and then we'll check the oil again and make sure it's at its correct level. Alright guys, we're up to the filling stage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put about 3 litres in, just to get it up to the level here, probably the minimum level, and then I can sort of see how much it needs, and then I can top it up to that top full line there once I've ran it, once it's circulated around enough. Then I'll be able to sort of check again afterwards and make sure it's got enough and top up if needed. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Okay guys, so as you can see, it's just over the full line a little bit. Put this cap back on. I'll start it for 1 or 2 seconds, turn it off, we'll check for leaks, and then top up from there once it settles down. key in, ignition on, fuel pump on, starter button. There you go, so that will allow that to pump the oil around the engine through the transmission and everything, because this 6-speed transmission also shares the same engine oil as the engine, which is why it's really important that you change it regularly as well, so you can protect your clutch and get all that material out of the cogs and everything like that. Okay, so it's been a few minutes now. The oil level has settled down to about halfway. I'm going to go ahead, top it up again, and hopefully that should be it. And just for a reference, it's going to probably take possibly 3.5 litres. So it's about 3.5 to 4 litres this thing takes, including the oil filter removal. Obviously if you get the engine rebuilt or something, it's going to take a bit more than that, because you have to pre-lube it and everything like that. If you're just doing general oil changes like this, you're looking at between 3.5 and 4 litres. And I have a little friend that's joined me. Hey buddy, get over here. Okay guys, so putting this fairing back on now, I'm probably going to suggest doing this bottom one first, because it'll sort of hold the bottom side so it doesn't sort of flap around and then, you know, everything becomes out of aligned with each other. So these all have to line up really well, because can't really see on camera, but basically there's like 3 pieces of plastic that sort of have to mold into one. Then here you've got 2 pieces of plastic in these little screw holes there that you've got to sort of deal with, and then it's got those plastic ones there that you can see. So I'll do these up and then we'll check back in, and then we should be good to ride. Well, not ride, but can't really ride, it's unregistered, but be good to start up and have a listen to it, go from there. Guys, so I mostly made it. I've just loose fitted all of the Allen key bolts into their corresponding holes. I've just have these plastic clips left, and I would suggest loose fitting everything until you're ready to tighten it, and then I'd probably tighten this one and sort of the top ones first, and then it sort of pulls the gap in. Otherwise, if you tighten the other ones first, I realized last time I did this, you sort of left with a huge gap here. So what you want to do is you want to tighten these ones first, get them all settled, and then you're all good. Okay guys, so a bit of a long video. I do apologize for how much I'm rambling on in this, but I thought I'd rather go into a bit of detail so we all know what we're doing. So just before I finish the video, I'll just let you know that I've used some Brasso on this steel pipes here, and this is stainless steel, and it's come up really good actually. It just had some old road grime and everything splatters and chain lube splatter everywhere, and it was a bit rusty, so I just went over that, did a once over with the Brasso, and now it's all good. So thank you again for watching. If you like what I do and you want to support me, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. I will also be doing an oil change on the Orion coming up soon as well, and I will be doing a little bit of a fleet update on my in-laws motorcycles too, because we're selling this one here, and then that one over there is new, but that's a separate video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.